Hi Giles, Giles Croft, Artistic Director of Nottingham Playhouse. Thank you so much today for coming to talk to me in conversation. And we're going to have a chat about the Neat 11 Festival. So tell me, what is Neat?
Okay, well, first thing to say, I suppose it's Nottingham European Arts and Theatre Festival, and it's Neat 11 because we're hoping there'll be a Neat 13, etc., etc. And really, it's what it says on the tin. It's a arts and theatre festival that's citywide, and it's been on now for just over a week, and it finishes on the 12th of June. And it brings artists from Europe in the main to perform in the city, but at the same time it's very much about highlighting Nottingham-based artists alongside, giving equal stature, actually, I suppose, to a company that's coming from Germany to a company that's based in Nottingham, and that's a very important principle.
And this is a festival that's been done in other European countries around the world for the last sort of 10 years?
Not exactly, no. What it is a festival that has in this case been located around an organisation called the European Theatre Convention, of which Nottingham Playhouse is a part. And that meets twice a year in different cities where there are member theatres, and in each of those cities there is a festival that's created to celebrate the General Assembly. And what's different about this one is that we've made it much bigger than the normal festivals that take place, and also we're using it as the springboard for a biennial that we're hoping we'll be able to establish for Nottingham.
And this is a great showcase for Nottingham talent and being able to bring in sort of European theatre, because there's a very large European demographic in Nottingham, sort of gradually coming here. I know where I live in Sneinton, there's a fabulous Polish community thriving. So I think there's a lot of Eastern European and European companies coming here, people coming here, and just showcasing this output. It's not just theatre, is it? This isn't just taking place in theatres or just plays.
Not at all. Though that's the main body of the work is performance related, but not everything. No, we've drawn in the visual arts through our relationships with New Art Exchange and Nottingham Contemporary. There's music events at the Playhouse and elsewhere in the city. There's some dance events. There's a whole range of activities, arts, but the main body of work is theatre. That's what the Playhouse does, is it makes theatre.
And live theatre, live performance.
Absolutely. But your point about the city demographic is a really important one. We've been very careful in the programming of the festival to make sure that we've brought work in, particularly from Poland. There's a lot of Polish-related work, but also from Germany, but from Bulgaria, from the Czech Republic, from a whole range of European cities, and cities that are countries rather than cities. Countries that are outside of what we normally perceive of as political Europe, and that's also a very important part of it. Because these days we think of Europe within the European Union, but actually countries like Belarus, the Ukraine, Kosovo, all these places are European. We've also brought in work that is from the West Bank, the occupied territories. That's also a very important part, and a piece that was about Africans coming to Europe. It's a very complex set of relationships we're trying to explore.
Art and theatre especially is an amazing medium for freedom of expression.
Yes.
And equally, I think a lot of people don't realise the kind of persecution in some cases that some performers get for performing what they believe to be the story they want to tell. And I think there's a lot of that coming through with this European, that wide range that is Europe, not just what we sort of perceive in the West. In Europe and the UK of what Europe is. Europe is such a wide continent in its own right. So this festival itself, for people who have not been to a festival, there's so much stuff going on. So it you've broken it down into sort of the main stage, which is the Playhouse.
Playhouse, Theatre Royal.
Theatre Royal. And then there's a fringe.
Yes, absolutely. We've got a space within the Playhouse, which we call Playhouse Etc., which is doing readings and music events, and then there are pieces happening in other spaces across the city, which is like a fringe. So we've had something at the Polish Centre, we've got something at the City Ground, we've had site-specific pieces in Wellington Circus outside the Playhouse, all sorts of activities.
And I think the fringe is so key, because it is where that experimentation takes place.
Yes, absolutely.
In the arts. That's where, the firelight of what shows often get written and end up in the Playhouse on the main stage. I mean, I know the Playhouse does invest in new writers,
yes,
and they
so.
very much bring that talent through, but there's so much work that comes through the fringes that I think we don't always realise the importance of that melting pot.
Yes, I think when you look at the big festivals that we know of, like Edinburgh, for example, or any of the other European festivals that people know of, there's usually a fringe. Avignon has the the in and the off, and the fringe tends to get developed over a period of time. We thought that what we needed to do with this festival, because it was the first one, is we need to build a fringe into it. But it wasn't really appropriate for myself as the artistic director to program the fringe. So we went to those artists and organisations that we thought knew much more about it, were what we used to call alternative, I suppose, when I was young. And we said to them, here's some funding, here's some contact, here's some support we can provide for you. Who are the interesting artists that